All right, hello and welcome everyone. This is TDR206. In this session, we'll talk about Amazon Macie and the value proposition of Amazon Macie for data governance and data protection use cases. My name is Himanshu Verma. I'm a worldwide security specialist with AWS. I cover all of our native AWS security services and the go-to-market strategy for these security services. I'm joined today with Aaron Miller, who's the principal architect for data security and governance from Expedia. So this session, I wanted to set the stage for what is Amazon Macie, what are the key value propositions of the service, and the key drivers. And we wanted to actually bring in one of our customers, Expedia, who's been leveraging the service for their data protection as well as data governance use cases. So Aaron will actually share a real-world application of Amazon Macie and how they are leveraging it in their key use cases, as well as what are the key business drivers that are leading to data protection and data governance in their organization. Aaron will also share a detailed solution as to how they've actually orchestrated and operationalized the service, and then a little bit of the road ahead, and we'll close out on some of the key takeaways. So first and foremost, I wanted to set the stage on what are the key drivers that we are hearing from customers, especially when it comes to the need to protect sensitive data at scale. First and foremost is the digital transformation journey, which is where as customers are moving their workloads from on-premise to the cloud, or are leveraging some of these new trends that are leading to generating large amounts of data. And as organizations have to deal with large amounts of data, there comes a responsibility of making sure that they can identify where all is the sensitive data, and then also then protect, as well as have the right policies and enforcements in place. Typically, there's also an increased challenge when it comes to the development teams who are actually focused on building applications that collect this data, as well as the security teams who have to then enforce policies to make sure that they're complying with the appropriate regulatory needs and or compliance regulations, et cetera. And there's an ongoing challenge where customers need to make sure that their cost as well as expense when it comes to, one, identifying sensitive data, and secondly, enforcing the appropriate policies and checks in place so that they can either comply with local and or global regulations, is where we want to make sure that customers can get the benefit from native AWS services. So Amazon Macie is a service that we actually relaunched in 2020, and we optimized that service from what was initially available, and that was a service that was originally launched in 2017. When we relaunched the service, there were some key aspects that we wanted to make sure that we take into the service based on feedback that we have gotten from the original service. The new service provides customers the ability to implement as well as detect sensitive data protection at scale, natively integrated with Amazon S3. Once enabled, the default functionality that the service provides is a view into the full inventory of S3 buckets, as well as data stored in S3. And then more importantly, a security posture assessment of where all is the current security posture of your S3 buckets. So with that, customers can gain full visibility right away into, number one, where all is your data and what security policies are there on that data. Once enabled, the service also makes it easy to continuously monitor any changes on those buckets. Since it's natively integrated with S3, Macie will start providing real-time updates on any control plane changes that are made to these buckets. So for instance, if somebody changes an encryption policy and or IAM policies or access permissions, or even replication policies on the buckets, Macie will report a policy finding in near real time. The second main feature is to allow customers to then discover where all is sensitive data. One of the core elements of actually being able to orchestrate or apply a data governance policy or a data protection policy is to first be able to identify, number one, what all is sensitive, and secondly, where all is that sensitive information. So Macie includes the ability for customers to select specific targets, either by selecting the buckets and or by specifying a criteria, which potentially could be a condition where you can define that when a bucket is made public, it should be scanned for sensitive information. Or when a specific policy is applied on a bucket, it should then automatically go ahead and scan for sensitive information and then report what all is PII, et cetera, in that bucket. So that is a process called creating sensitive data discovery jobs. So in the new service, we've actually given customers the full ability to have control as well as flexibility as to where all do they want to scan for sensitive data, and then how much, defining the scope and frequency, and how often do they want to scan for that data. Using the sensitive data discovery jobs, customers can also define the scope as to, do you want to scan the full bucket, and or you want to include only specific objects that satisfy a certain criteria in that bucket. Some of the other major enhancements that were made in the service are related to scale and performance. Being native to AWS, Macie does not require any additional operationalization and or configuration when it comes to scaling the performance or the amount of data that you can scan with the service. Macie supports a wide variety of supported objects when it comes to big data, Parquet and Avro files, compressed objects and or documents or text files. Most of the widely known formats are supported by the service. Additionally, what we've done is that as a managed service, we built in managed data identifiers, which is what customers can leverage to identify either personal information or PII, healthcare information, financial information such as credit cards, bank account numbers, as well as credentials and secrets. So if you have, for example, GitHub repos or you have AWS API keys or pins, Macie can also help identify those using the built-in managed data identifiers. So these managed identifiers are continuously growing, and we are continuously adding into the service so that customers can leverage that benefit out of the box. Now, there are times when you're defining your applications or designing your applications and you need to have custom identifiers or your own identifiers based on your business needs. So Macie gives you the flexibility where you can define your own custom identifiers as well. You can use regular expressions or defining using regular expressions or PCRE regular expressions and define your own custom identifiers, which can be used to either influence a built-in managed identifier or a completely new identifier that is something specific to your business application. Using pattern matching and machine learning, Macie will match both the managed identifiers and custom identifiers and report them as sensitive findings. And those are the findings which customers can then leverage to orchestrate the downstream automation associated with the data governance and data protection policies. All the findings are available in the service, in the console. They're also automatically sent to EventBridge, which is an open bus queue from where customers can trigger event-driven automation. And finally, they're also available in a detailed result repository that customers can configure. So you can configure your own S3 bucket, which is encrypted, and define the location, which is where Macie will write detailed results of what it's been scanning, what are the closest locations of the results that it's matching, and then what are the objects that it's not scanning as well. Using EventBridge and using the management APIs, you can automate workflows which can then help either applying policies and or downstream automation with regards to even remediation and response as well. The findings can also be configured to send to Security Hub, which is our centralized monitoring service from where you can also orchestrate the downstream automation and or response and remediation. This is an important aspect that once you enable the service, the second part is how do you act on the findings. So Macie will report the findings in the form of policy changes to the buckets. And then secondly, once you scan the data, it'll report the sensitive data findings as well. Customers can either use those findings to trigger alerts from the security team to the development team. One of the other features that is now available is that Macie is centrally integrated with AWS organization. So if your organization's using multiple accounts and your data governance team needs to set up the service from a centralized managed account, you can use the AWS organization integration, and then from there, as you execute jobs on member accounts, the findings will be reported in that centralized data governance account, as well as the member accounts. And using those findings is where you can trigger easy automation, such as sending it to either Jira or Slack for ticketing and or notification. You can also use tagging, which is a built-in S3 functionality, to identify where all the sensitive buckets are or objects with sensitive data are. And that is actually an example that Aaron will talk more detail in. Customers can also leverage the JSON line report, which is actually written in the detailed result repository, and then send that to either Athena or to OpenSearch, and then build visualizations on top of that by using custom queries, for which we have some solutions that are published in GitHub. And then finally, you can use the trigger of the event bridge to then take actions as well. These could be invoking step functions or Lambda functions that can evaluate the bucket and or the sensitive findings that are reported, and then take actions based on that. So some of the key use cases where Macie can help, first and foremost, is helping customers have continuous visibility and being able to monitor your data and then assess your data privacy and security, which is the ability to answer the question, where all you have sensitive information, and then is that information protected and how is that secure? Secondly, maintaining regulatory compliance. Whether it's global regulatory compliance requirements such as GDPR, or you are trying to enforce data lineage policies, or local compliance regulations such as CCPA, and you need to have options that you need to provide to your customers as part of your applications for data deletion or opting in and out to data deletion, et cetera. The first aspect of that is to first find out where that sensitive data is and how is that sensitive data being used within your data or your storage set. And that is where Macie can help identify that information and then provide that information to help maintain regulatory compliance. And then finally, identifying sensitive data during migrations as well. Macie's target selection today is Amazon S3, to which if you have workloads that are moving to the cloud and you have data that is moving to the cloud, you can use staging S3 buckets to scan that data, then appropriately tag it, and then send it downstream to your data lake. And then using those tags, you can ensure that the appropriate data protection policies are following the data as well. So those are the primary use cases that we see customers leveraging the service. I'll now hand it over to Aaron so that he can discuss how Expedia and the team at Expedia are leveraging Macie and its key features.
Thank you, sir. Hello, everyone. I'm Aaron Miller. I work at Expedia, and I really do like to travel, even though I do work there. So it's a lot of fun. So data protection, data governance has been, we all struggle through it tons of times, so let's start talking about it. There's some common questions that come up first that you sort of really have to be able to ask yourselves and know where it is. Where's my data? Where do I have it? Right? What is my data? What do I contain in my data? What do I have within it? Is there anything I should be worried about? Is there anything I'm not worried about? How do I want to level that in security aspects? Who has access? There's a ton of people in my organization, just like there's a ton of people in your organization. Who can actually read this data? What can they do with it? Can they create copies of it? Can they only read it? What can they do with it and who has access? How long should I have it? Some data I can't keep forever. Some data I can. There are certain requirements and regulatory requirements that says what you can do with data if someone asks for it. How long should I keep it? What changes in it? Did they add data? Did they remove data? Did they alter that schema that removed X fields and added Y fields? What changes took place? More importantly, how do I stay compliant? There's a ton of regulatory things that change every day. How do I stay compliant that I don't spend hours and hours and hours of engineering time to meet those regulatory requirements because I don't know where stuff is? So we have business drivers. Why did we build this? What was the reason for it? We have audit and compliance requirements all over the place. We have systems around the world. For us, it's very important. We have ever-changing requirements around the globe that we have to deal with. For instance, EU, US, California, they all have different requirements of what we can and cannot do with data. So we have to know what we have where and as it changes. We have to do it automatically. If we don't, we'll never get through it. You can only go through so much data manually. We generate about 0.5 petabyte of data every month of new data of stuff we know. Not even accounting the stuff that is built by analysts as they're trying to work through scenarios, generating ML models and AI stuff. We want to enrich our data. We want to make it easy for people to find, hey, where can I get first name if I'm allowed to touch it? Hey, where do I get booking information? Where's this? Where's that? Where's country information? So on. Where do I have address so I can generate targeted marketing materials? Need to be able to enrich it. Need to be able to know it. Drives our discovery process. Empowering automation of security. This is critical. We cannot hire enough staff to actually do the automation by hand. So we have to know what our data is, we tag it effectively, and we can do automated security, which enables our controls, which means I know where my data is, and people that are not supposed to access PII don't get access to it. And I don't need staff to complete a JIRA ticket to do it. I can automatically solve my problems. I need to make the data worth money. Data is valuable. We drive marketing from it. Every company on this planet will drive marketing from data. So if I've limited my access to data because I don't know what it is, then how am I empowering people to get access to that data to make money for the company? If you don't use your data to make the money, then why are you keeping it? The biggest one, I try not to say those words, those letters, because it changes all the time, and by those words, we have to be able to remove data. And if you don't understand the structures of your data and what you're doing with your data, you're going to end up having to remove more data than you need. And that's going to remove my ability to make money off my data. So, let's jump in the pool. We had a lot of fun building this. It changed a lot of things. We discovered a lot of things in the process. We actually found a ton of things we can do better, but let's talk about it. So, we need to identify additional data sources. We have tons of them, from raw S3 to Hive to Iceberg to transactional. We needed to be effective. I needed not to make a single engineering team do anything. I didn't want them to have to change anything they do or register or give me data or have to do this or put this SDK in their software. And it had to be flexible. I need to abstract it completely away. So no one had to do anything. It worked, and it ran, and did not affect a single customer coming to spend money with us that wanted to travel. I needed to have controls. I needed to have tons of knobs, tons of switches, tons of ways that data governance and security and data owners can affect what is in their world, right? They had to have those abilities without submitting tickets. I needed a sample. At 0.5 petabyte of new data a month, I can't just scan everything. We have a large scale amount of data that comes in. It's enormous. So scanning all of it isn't going to work. Scanning 0.5 petabyte of new data every month is a serious financial input. It's not going to work for us. So we had to sample. And how do we know from our sampling we're good? We developed a thing called a confidence score. This helps us understand how our data owners are working and how Macie is working. I needed to tag. So there's early results. You heard. I needed to be able to effectively take that stuff, apply it where I needed to apply it, so I actually have value from what I was scanning. It couldn't be from someone doing it by hand. They had to do it by system. Otherwise, they never get through it. In the last couple months, I found 74,000 tags that I wanted to make sure that were there or weren't there, but I had to apply them. I can't have people doing it. They need to know what it's doing. I'm driven very heavily by metrics. Sometimes I put metrics before sometimes the feature sets and functionality, because if I don't have the metrics, I don't know if they're working. It's very important that we understand, what is it touching, how is it doing? And with our metric data, we can actually teach our data governance personnel and our security personnel to fish for where there's a violation. I don't need someone to do something to go spew through log files or send emails. They can use our dashboards and our metrics to understand I found data, and they can drive from it. So let's talk about what we built, where the coolness started to start. We have major components going through our system. Everything is region-based within inside of Expedia. When we deal with AWS, we have multiple counts scattered all over the place. I think the last time I checked was around 4,000. They're everywhere. I have multiple different data sources. So we developed a product called a shim. This shim deals with what the data source is and what it is. It raises events. It allows me to understand where data is moving and what data is produced where, no matter what the data source is. So it's completely taken care of. Iceberg, Hive, Mongo, SQL Server, Oracle. We have a shim for them. And then goes to our next piece. We raise an event, comes into a data event receiver. This is where things come pure Amazon. It's where we go completely serverless. We literally know what the source is, what I build, what I need to deal with from that source, and how I need to extract data in a sampling process. I now look at my rules. We'll talk about a process called dynamic scanning here shortly. This is how we determine how much I go after it, and do I go after it to control my cost points. I then go to my next step, which is the most critical part. I now have generated my data. I'm ready to go for scanning. Within the scanning process, we directly go against the things that you heard today. We aggregate our batch material. We create jobs in Macie to do it, so we make it the most effective. We don't just do one job at a time. We effectively leverage Macie and get the most we can out of it. And so much that every one of our pieces of data, irrelevant to where our shims find it, is always in the same format. The most expedient way to get data through Macie that we have found. In size, we limit things to 1 gig of file. Allows us to be very efficient. So we have to know that we created a batch process. We aggregate it, let's go. Next part, we gotta tag it. Otherwise, why'd we scan it? Through scanning, we have a whole bunch of rules. We evaluate, should we scan it? Should we tag it? Is this tag valid? Do we not really care? Let's keep it as log, let's don't put it on the data set. Because data, not only do we bring in tons of data, we also provide a ton of data out to different organizations. A lot of that data, we just wanna log it. There's nowhere worth to tag it, it's temporary, it goes out this building. We wanna generate that metrics from tagging. Super important. Final part, we wanna monitor it, dashboards. We're gonna take every one of those metrics that we have there and define X rules, however you want within inside the dashboard piece. Doesn't matter what you wanna build or you wanna be alerted. You leverage it within the dashboard, you leverage off those metric events, and you can discover everything. Create Jira tickets, talk to Slack, do everything you need to run. Have security know, hey, I got a big problem, or hey, I don't need to worry about it. Dashboards are 100% go look all you like. We have some examples of those later. Automate the process. The goal is I now have a tag, I now have metrics, I can do things. I can remove access because I've now tagged and so on. So, the data event receiver. It's a pretty big one. If you notice, 100% of it is almost all AWS. It's 100% serverless except for our data persisted layer. We bring data in, as you see here down at the bottom. Bring it in as Hive, you bring it in as S3, whatever. We process it, we understand, we have our shim tell us about it. We go through the parts and pieces. As it goes through, from left to right, we start understanding what our data is. What do I need to do with it? How do I need to copy it? In our environment, Macie has access to one S3 bucket. And it's only the data that we give it to scan. We are super tight on security. We want it for that reason. So we leverage Macie in one bucket. No one at Expedia has access to the bucket. Only Macie has access to the bucket. So when I take that sample, it cannot be changed under the covers. So I know that data contained it. So I go through as I'm moving across, I start raising events in SQS. I go through the process and I'm raising each point, understanding, should I go, should I not? Should I go, should I not? What do I need to do? Do I scan? How much do I take? I build that understanding of what that data is, and then I sample. We use Spark and Hive to get out of our Hive tables. We sample the partition. We scan data at a partition level. So we know the exact partition from the shim that was created. If it was created 15 minutes ago, we know we're clear. We can go after it. If it's within inside that 15 minutes, we put it to the parking lot and we wait, because we know that there's going to be late arriving data, and we found it's about 10 minutes sometimes in our systems to get that data all the way down to our data warehouse where we have our Hive. We need a sample. We take that sample, we create a copy. We know the job finished, we have our copy, we generate our copy. We now copy it to an S3 bucket for processing. This is where we build our batches. We generate our batch, we tell Macie, we're now off to the races. Hopefully we find nothing. Hopefully we find something that's value to us. And we move forward. Within the process is this important process called dynamic scanning. This process is probably one of our most critical parts about what do we scan and how do we scan. The number one reason is I can't scan everything. Half a petabyte of data a month means I gotta start drawing lines. So in dynamic scanning, we have a set of rules that are fully controllable, fully configurable by data governance and security. Data owners can ask, but may be approved and may not be approved. And in the process, we limit the data. We back off. If you're a good data steward, you know how to model data and you're keeping PII out of your data resource, I'm gonna back off on scanning. I'm not gonna touch you as much. I will come back and sample, make sure, but I will decrease my level. Because there's no reason to keep scanning data, you know what it is, and it's not changing. And it's tightly schemed. So I can back off. I don't have to scan every piece of data coming into the system. Or you're one that's not a good data steward. You have tons of PII, and it's all over the place. Well, as new PII is inserted into your schema, your back off collapses back down in dynamic scanning, and I come after it again, and I do a full sample scan. I say, hey, what are you guys doing? I have more data. You've changed things, let's rescan. You don't have data that's in a good data steward level because you have PII everywhere. We want to reduce that scope. So dynamic scanning gives the ability to configure it, understand, and back off. So good data stewards aren't getting scanned as much, and I don't need to focus as much attention on those. And bad data stewards, I can focus my attention on to understand where my data is. If I know where my data is and I scan effectively, I can drastically reduce my cost of scanning. This was one of the main reasons to go through here. Plus, it gives us the ability to ignore areas. Areas that we refer to as TTL of 7 days, TTL of 5 days. There's no reason to scan something that's going to be gone in 5 days. There's no reason. So inside dynamic scanning, we also have the rules associated. What is the TTL level and what do I do with it depending on the severity of the data? The data scanner. This is the part where we play with Macie, part where we get fun. We batch data. So as things come in from the left, we have our S3 buckets that have the raw data. These are data buckets that only Macie has access to inside of Expedia. We don't change it. The data is what was come from sampling, either from S3, from Hive, from Iceberg, from Mongo, from SQL Server, from Oracle. You name the data source, I probably have it. You go through a series of events to do batching. Understand, what should I do? How do I batch this? How do I get the most effective from Macie? Am I currently running a batch job? Am I not? Let's start batching these things up. Takes a little time to spin up a Macie job, so let's make sure it's worth it. We're talking a couple seconds. Go through. We now hand it off to Macie. We have that batch. We've triggered it. We have it in Macie. Macie's now going to chug on it. It's going to give us data. Again, 100% serverless, except for our persisted tier. Allows us to scale very effectively. We can trigger Lambda functions all day long and scale them out as much as we need us to go super fast. We get results. I have my results. I now need to process them, aggregate them, deal with what I need to do to get towards that next level. I now am going to tag it. The last one before metrics, sort of our critical component. This is where a lot of other very complex logic comes into play, is what data governance and security wants to do with data. Inside this process, we go through, do I have individual rules at a bucket level or at a data source level? You can do a data source at a table at Hive, Or you could even have a data source, say at a folder location, buried inside S3. We allow any one of those. At the high level bucket, all the way down to a folder level, someone can declare a rule of tagging. What tags to be included, what tags to be excluded. Ones they don't care about, ones that don't matter to us. Ones that only we care. We don't care about any other tag, but these, only include these. Say we're sharing data with third parties, right? And our data that's going out to somebody, we need to make sure that this data is always present. Or this data should never be present before we release it. That's in the exclude and exclude rules as it starts. Starts going through. We see that we can, it's worth it, we're not. Yes, the bucket is available for tagging. The data source is true. That folder location, yes, tag. Include, exclude, or the full gambit. They all need to be applied. We go through, we drop down, or we're out. Here we go. Let's start our tagging process. We map those tags from Macie to our tags at Expedia. Those tags are very important. We have a series of tags, they have a series of tags. We need to map them. Otherwise, I don't use their tags, they don't use mine. I have 750 possible tags I need to care about, and they map accordingly. We come through, we do our mappings, we apply them to the data source. Certain data sources now have certain levels of how I could tag. For instance, as an S3 location, I can only tag, and I have limited numbers, so we do a very high, sensitive, or confidential, or highly sensitive. Those tags that we apply is at the folder location level, and every object within the folder gets it. So that's going to be changed. Now, if I go after Hive, I have the ability to tag directly at the column level. So now I know, hey, that column has something it's not supposed to, that not everyone can have access to. Then we scale it up. Every tag we get from Macie rolls into a product we call Schema Deploy. A product keeps a full inventory of every tag, including detailed tags at an S3 level. So S3 doesn't have as many number of tags as we can do at a column level, but we have that capability within inside our Schema Deploy product that allows us to track at an S3 location, hey, first name's here, last name's here, address is here, and so on. So if security wants it, they have full access to that data. They know. It's presented inside their metrics piece. So we go through, we generate the tags, we send the tag to the source. So we're automating the tag process, so Hive and S3, SQL Server, Mongo, all get the tag applied right out of the gate. So now security automatically happens. We don't have to do anything. Someone doesn't have to review. We don't allow you access to sensitive data, you no longer have access to it, right then and there. So now comes our metrics. As we trigger our dashboard all the way through, and the process goes through, there's several different metrics that get generated. We have new data sources that come in that we didn't know about. Data sources that are built by machine learning, analysts, and so on. How many events are we rating per second? How many different things are we seeing that we need to process? Do we need to worry about? Do I need to do something with it? How do I trigger it? Where do I go now? What's my role? From an operational standpoint, is everything running? I know things are moving. What did I scan? I have a metric that tells me that. It tells me, hey, you scanned X, this is what you scanned. Within every one of our metrics of scanning, we say the size. How many records? How many records had that tag at the tag level? So down to a tag level, first name, address, credit card number. Let's hope we don't find that. I know the exact number of times first name was in that column. So I have a data quality level also coming out of this. So I know that the quality of that data for an analyst, 90%. You can find first name here. So as an analyst, I now can see, hey, I know I need first name. I'm going to go right there because the data quality's up. It has been tagged as first name, and it's 90% there. That solves all, I don't need to go anywhere else. I'm going right there as my source of data for first name. Same thing for address, same thing for country, same thing for understand geographic location or so on. From our metrics, they have the ability to properly identify what data source is there. We generate those metrics out to other systems. We generate how many matching tags. This is sort of an important one for our quality scores. Matching tags are the number of times that, hey, a data owner told me first name. Macie said first name. I match. How many didn't match? How many finds did I have from Macie that the data owner didn't provide me? want to know that from a metric point, understand how much or how well are we doing. Also coming to metric is, hey, it was there by Macie, it's not there now. So we have a change of schema. The owners have removed their data from, hey, I don't want to be PII because a lot of people don't have access to PII. Let me bubble that out and do a different method. So from metrics, we're able to drive a ton of business operations. What do we do from security standpoint? What do we do from a governance standpoint? Who has access? Where's this at? As the last one on the lower right, you see who's chewing up the most data down to a data source level, S3, Hive, Iceberg, or whatnot. You get all these metrics data, you can probably understand what it's doing. Then you can come all the way back full circle, go into dynamic scanning, load additional parameters. Hey, that top one that's chewing a lot, we're clear, let's back that off. Let's increase the back off to every 100th partition, because we know it's good unless there's a schema change, right? So what were our outcomes? What did we see? So we had a reducive sensitive data footprint. As soon as I stop allowing people access to data, people start to ask, hey, I need access to this data. And they're like, well, why don't you? Well, let's reduce that PII. Let's pull it out. Now they have access to it. Limiting access to PII reduces exposure. So it's a great output for us. We're reducing duplicate data. It's another great output. Because now I know data quality, hey, that's where I want to go for that PII. I don't need to go here and then there, or maybe here or maybe there. I know I go there. Reducing the footprint, and I have more constant footprint to go after. Our management, our metadata, super important. It's something that really drives the ability to find what I need to go after. Enhancing our discovery. I now am tagging everything I possibly can. So as an analyst, or as a data engineer, or as a data owner, or a report writer, or any function that you need to go query data, you can easily find the data you're after that could be considered sensitive, highly sensitive, or confidential. Or what data sources you may not have access to, because you don't get access to PI because you don't need it. Maybe you're doing report writing based on regional controls to understand our booking process. You shouldn't have to choose to use a PII sensitive resource. You now can target other resources and not worry about access. Improves the trustworthiness of our data, because now we know what it is and we know the level of first name, last name, or et cetera. We now trust our data better. We understand, hey, I know that data's there. I know this resource is there. How great is it to know I have a customer table that's centralized, and I know that 95 to 99% of all the PII fields are filled in. That just became your truthy source. I need to access something to a customer, I go there. And slowly you start reducing your footprint. So what are we doing next? We're not done. There's tons more for us to do. So data visibility. We're supporting more data sources. We're adding more. Expedia, we have a lot of persistent stores. We're also going to add our Kafka stream process to this. There's a ton of sources coming in and out of what we refer to as our CDE environment. Well, we want to see that data that comes all the way out of there, is it clean? We want to go after as soon as it leaves. We're going to go after Kafka. Other sources that come through, other ways we're going to store our data. Go after additional sources that haven't fully been enabled. Has tagging fully been enabled? Adding our additional sources. There'll be additional metrics as we go through, additional points in the system that data governance wants to see, understand. Same thing with security. What are those different metrics that will help them do their jobs better and faster and more efficiently? Our business interactions. We need to add additional knobs. I want to be able to scale faster inside Macie. I want to run multiple Macie, multiple accounts so I can go quicker, right? Cool thing about Macie is I can deploy to another account, and I have a whole different set of jobs and kicks that I can do, independent, so I can trigger jobs wherever I need to go. Because of our overlay we put on top, I can copy those to choice folders of S3 and give that Macie. So now I can scale and overscale Macie. I want to put a self-service API. What I mean by that is everyone at data governance will have permissions to adjust their own knobs. There's no reason to limit that functionality. We want it self-service. It goes into our travel platform, which will enable anyone that comes onto our travel platform to worry about their own data and set their own parameters of their data after we guarantee it's clear. Focus the solution on handling outbound. We talked about it. We push a lot of data to a lot of third parties to enable them. Let's make sure it's clear. We want to enrich that process, make it better, make it faster. So when you put data into a file, an S3 location to go, we go after it right then and kick it out. Again, install Macie, another account, targeted outbound. I now have a whole nother thread of Macie being able to guarantee the data I'm sending does not contain something that would expose them, but also expose me. Integration or automated solutions. This is huge for us. If we get a piece of data that cell should never have left, say, credit card, let's automatically encrypt it and randomly choose the secret so it never can get undone. And then inform with a metric that we have taken care of the data in a Hive table that had something that was not supposed to be there. We've automatically encrypted it. Do more automation in giving us the controls to protect our data faster, the data that shouldn't be there. If, for instance, if there's a series of tables that have PII that should be encrypted, let's encrypt it. Let's not wait, tell someone, and then have to go through all the way through our life cycle to get that fixed. Let's do it right then and there and take care of it. So now for some key takeaways.
Thank you, Aaron. So just to highlight some of the key takeaways here, first and foremost, you probably got an idea of how using Macie's native functionality, one is the management APIs, as well as secondly, the findings that are available in EventBridge. Expedia has been able to orchestrate how the data comes into an S3 bucket, leverage that data from various different sources, and then scan intelligently. Most of the times, this is a challenge that customers face, which is how much data and where all the data that they need to scan. So using Macie's job definition as well as the job scopes that you can define, you can easily either sample and or define your own criteria of how much data do you want to scan. Secondly, using built-in managed identifiers as well as custom identifiers, when the findings are reported in the findings metadata, there is information that's available as to what is the sensitive data type, where was the location of the sensitive data, and then just yesterday we launched another feature that now provides customers visibility into what that sensitive data is and be able to confirm if that sensitive data type matches the value that's reported in the finding. And that then helps to orchestrate a downstream automation using the EventBridge or calling step functions in Lambda to trigger either S3 tags or object tags and or response and remediation. Another benefit that customers can further layer on top of this is the threat detection use cases. If you're leveraging guard duty for S3 protection, that is natively integrated with S3 and can report any suspicious or malicious access to the data, such as data exfiltration acts, they can then be further correlated in Security Hub because both Macie and Guard Duty report findings in Security Hub. So customers' security teams can actually orchestrate that and leverage that findings from both Macie and Guard Duty to tie in as to where the sensitive information is and whether or not it's being accessed by either malicious and or suspicious actors. So the key benefits that Macie provides is first and foremost performance to be able to discover sensitive data at scale. As I mentioned, there's no additional operational overhead required and or compute or storage required. All customers need to do is enable the service, be able to monitor their S3 bucket inventory, and then choose and define job scopes of how much data do they want to scan. The managed identifiers are built in that provides customers the wide range of sensitive information that can be scanned automatically. And then finally, the ability to scale and manage the service. Using management APIs and the EventBridge automation, you can orchestrate downstream automation for data governance and data protection. So with that, thanks for joining today. We'll be happy to take any questions. Please also fill up the survey forms. There is some time left here, about 10 minutes, so we'll be happy to take any questions from the audience.
So I have a question about your scanning tools. You talk about you have some dynamic scanning tools in order to, because it's hard to go from one petabyte of data every time. Can you give us a few examples of you apply machine learning or what kind of
So I'll use the example of booking data. Booking data comes into the system. We do tons of booking related and reservation based data across all wide range of our brands, right? So when the booking data hits the data data lake, we start partitioning that data by hour. Now, booking data should contain no PII and no other data. It should be actually known data to us. It's actually a set schema. So as we scan it in dynamic scanning, we set rules and say, hey, let's start with, if you are clean, you have no tags, wait 8 more partitions before the next tab. If you're clean after that, double it. Wait 16. You're clear after that, wait 32. Right? So depending on your data source, we create rules. Either you can say add 2, or double it, or triple it, or 10 times it. So depending on the quality of the data that you know, right? So if you know that schema, right? And you know it's good, and there's been no additional events. There's been no schema events. Remember I mentioned a product called Schema Deploy. Anytime a schema is changed through our system, we get an event of a schema. That will wipe out your back off in dynamic scanning. So then you could have another source will contain PII. Say, hey, this data contains PII. I need to make sure where it's at. So I may not back off 10 times. I may back off every 2 partitions. So down to either an S3 bucket folder path or a Hive table name, I can change that dynamic scaling based on what I need to do to reduce the amount of data I'm scanning. Don't waste time scanning data that you know that's been clear. Focus on the new data that's coming in nonstop, right? As third parties send us data, I need to scan, right? So going through that, I generate a confidence score. And our target is between 70 and 80% confidence that we know and understand the tag data. We've figured out the mathematics behind that and say, hey, off of that, I can scan 10 to 15% of my new data continuously and be within my range. To jump up to say 80, 90, I need to scan 60% of my data. So my costs can just start to explode. So then on that back off, I can strategically target where to go. Back it off here. Again, if say our engineers change the scheme of booking, we're gonna slam that door closed and start again. Because I don't know what they put there. They could have changed it. But you always want to continuously scan it because you don't know if an engineer accidentally started double using a column, right? So you always will not, you won't stop. That's why you just keep backing off and give us, and then we have a max ability to back off. So hey, only back off X. You can back off till you get to Y, right? You're backing off this, and our max is this, so we'll wait that max period of time. We won't let it go off to 4 years. Did that answer your question? Cool. Yep. It's been a lot of fun to build.
Question?
So like how do you handle false positives or incorrect flagging of data as PI or PCI?
So yeah, so we've had false positives. I think one of the coolest things about false positives is the discovery process that comes from it. A lot of our false positives are not, hey, that's a first name, you didn't tell me, right? Or so-and-so. So we do when a tag is found and you saw it through going through and you saw the metric events raised, data governance and security, depending on the level of the tag, if we're talking about credit card data, security acts. Talking about PII, data governance will act with security paying attention. Just like you have credit card, security will take the front. They will talk to the owner and say, hey, the owner will say, hey, that's not first name, right? That's this. So they go through so we'll go back and forth, and we trigger what's referred to as a false negative, and we store that against the data set. This piece of data in this column, it's not this. So then that feeds back into our confidence score. So that process is done by hand, right? Through the event and working with those data owners to say, what do you mean it's not this? You were told this is a first name. Why does it say? And then as influence to understand, say, okay, you say that's not a first name, but I scanned 100,000 records and 98,000 of them have it that say, hey, out of this data set of 100,000, 98,000 say, hey, that's first name. You sure that's not a first name? So that gives evidence of data governance to not just stop blindly and say, that's not a first name. You have no proof. Those counts tell us that we get from Macie. So Macie's giving us data as the data we present to scan. They tell us how much that tag data is in there. And then we just remediate that as we go through. Every one of the false positives come back. I would say 50% of people are saying, oh, I didn't realize I was putting that data in there. The other half is people saying, well, can I get rid of it? I don't want that tag on it. No. They didn't properly The engineers didn't properly tag their data from the beginning. So then we found it and we marked it, and the data owner no clue that the engineer put that schema together that way. The only one that we've actually generated true false positives is the word Edison. Macie doesn't like to tell me where Edison is because it's a proper noun name. So in our business, though, it matters to us. We don't write articles. So that's a false positive that we have to deal with.
Any other questions?
Is there any limitation on the file size?
There is limitations, but we have found roughly about 1 gig gives you the best bang for the buck, right? So out of all the processing we've done with Macie and scaling it up, we found roughly about 1 gig. So we generate a file format that's common for every data source we have. As we go through our process and we do the batching process, those file formats that we write to that S3 bucket that only Macie has access to is 1 gig apiece. We found that is the most efficient way for us to batch, but we also can roughly know how long it takes to do 1 gig from Macie from all of our scans. So we start batching effectively to understand the output. We found about 1 gig. It supports more than 1 gig, but we found 1 gig is the most performance out of all the other ones. That's a lot of data though. I mean, a gig in a flat file that you've presented in a format that's efficient for Macie to run, you're scanning a lot of data very effectively.
Do we have the support for the full file types? Do we scan the header of the file or just look at the file?
We do, as part of Macie's default functionality, when you enable the service, it actually goes in and scans and reports what is called classifiable objects.
Yeah.
And those are actually supported objects which are actually involved in the scans. So Macie will only actually charge for the supported objects that are part of the scans. And as part of that evaluation, we do check for magic headers and part of the file to determine if it's supported or not.
We leveraged that at the very beginning, and then we needed to scale faster. So we decided we know the data is coming in, so when we're building that file, we know that we're presenting 100% of the data to scan is in a file format that Macie knows. So we're not being told, hey, I don't support this file. Because at that point, if you're just doing that, we found that that performance side on our side, that we wanted that time. Chugging through or sampling out 0.5 petabyte of data a month, we need to use every second we can, so.
All right, thanks everyone for joining. Have a good rest of the day.